Here's your shot at winning $1,000. Text the national keyword prize right now to 95819. That's PRIZE to 95819. We'll text you back to confirm your entry. Data and messaging rates may apply. Please don't text and drive. It's $5K a day on WMAL. Now on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
7:07 here on this 9th day of October, and, well, history was made a couple of hours ago in Egypt as representatives of the United States of America, Israel, and Hamas signed what appears to be a legitimate peace agreement that begins with the release of those hostages that we should hope, according to the president, by Monday that will occur. The president will be heading to Egypt himself and then to Israel. We'll give you details as they develop during this program. 10 a.m., the security cabinet of Benjamin Netanyahu will be voting on and agreeing to that agreement as well. That'll be the next big development. Coming in 30 minutes, Senator Marsha Blackburn will join us. 8:05, Ron Halber of the Jewish Community Relations Council here in Washington. Then at 8:15, Caroline Glick, an advisor to Prime Minister Netanyahu. She'll be joining us from Israel. 8:35, Thomas Dietrich, Artistic Director at the Kennedy Center, talk about the Stuttgart Ballet in town. It's Larry O'Connor with Bethany Mandel. Good morning, Bethany.
You got your required mention of this. How do you say it?
Stuttgart.
Do I get the free tickets from the Kennedy Center if I say it 600 times in this show? Because that's, I think, what you're gunning for.
Stop being a freeloader. Buy your tickets. Support the arts. Joining us right now. It's great to have Bethany. Bethany, by the way, for those of you who don't know, Bethany Mandel has been in communication with and supporting and working with the hostage families since October 8th, frankly. And so it's great to share in your joy and optimism on this day, Bethany. Joining us right now is Russell Nobile. He's a Judicial Watch senior attorney, and he was part of the voting integrity effort that brought a Supreme Court case yesterday having to do with mail-in ballots. Counselor, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Good to join you.
If you can briefly summarize the case that the court heard yesterday and how the arguments went, our listeners would very much appreciate that.
Yeah, so about 3 years ago, we decided to try to clean up the case law on standing and get an answer to the question of why states are allowing ballots to come in weeks or days and weeks after Election Day. And so this was the first case we filed, and it originated in Illinois. We represent Congressman Issa and a couple of presidential electors. And we never got to merit stage. The courts just kept throwing us out. They kept using a lot of very bad rulings from 2020 and coming up with new reasons to say why federal candidates can't challenge election laws. And so we lost enough jurisdictional motions until eventually the Supreme Court took notice and decided to hear the case. And so we had oral argument yesterday, and we're very pleased with how things go. There was a hot panel. They came in with a lot of questions because, frankly, the judiciary just hates election-related cases, and so they don't want to hear them. And so, you have that sort of bias going into it, but it's obviously very important that the courts hear legitimate, well-pled claims, and we think we presented that to them.
Can I ask one quick follow-up here, and then Bethany, I know, has questions too. But it's been mentioned that after 2020, there were so many cases brought about irregularities and strangeness and the handling of ballots and the time spent counting and how the counting of ballots took place without people observing and all of that stuff. And so many of those cases were not really heard in court, and mostly because of standing, because they said the Trump campaign didn't have standing, et cetera, et cetera. Is part of this case to sort of crystallize that so that in the future, who has standing and who does not have standing is well known and understood, so we don't have what sort of the chaotic scene we had in courts post-Election Day 2020?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's another thing going on in election cases, too, where the courts will just say, well, you may have a good claim, you may even win, but it's so close to the election, we're not going to give you relief. And so,
which, by the way, is counter logical. I mean, because it's so close, we need to get this resolved.
Yeah, and so it's almost penalizing you. So what we did is we touched all the bases. We filed, absurdly early, and we went through the whole process. But, to the larger question about, and so we forced the court. What we said internally is we touched every base surround home plate where they honestly could not avoid the question, because it's really important, and it's important that people understand and have these disputes heard. And honestly, if we lose, we lose, but the public needs an answer as to why ballots are coming in late. But for 135 years, federal courts have heard challenges brought by candidates. I mean, we cited it in our arguments for the trial court, and Paul Clement brought it up yesterday, representing us before the Supreme Court. Presidential electors were able to sue over the rules of the road in McPherson in a case called McPherson a long time ago. And it was just taken for granted that federal candidates could always bring their cases to court. And it wasn't until 2020 that everyone suddenly was like, well, we're not so sure about that. And then they just kept coming up with really, some of the cases could have been pled better. Some of them were, not necessarily Trump's cases, but, it's the chaos of post-election. You're sort of scrambling. And so they're really hard cases to bring. But it's axiomatic that federal candidates have an interest in how the rules governing their elections. It's really it's hard to imagine why we're here, but we're glad to hopefully finally get that resolved, where in the future we can go forward with timely brought complaints.
Yeah. So I know that some of the justices can be a little hard to nail down sometimes, but did you get kind of a vibe during oral arguments of how folks were feeling? Because sometimes you can get that spider sense of, I think this person is picking up what I'm throwing down, and sometimes you're just like really not sure. How were you feeling about those individual justices?
Did Clarence Thomas wink at you, is what we're asking.
Well, to be fair, we could, we had three theories, right? We had just basically they spend money so they're injured. Then secondly, we have an interest in just having an accurate vote count, regardless of what that is. We want a fair score at the end. And then third, we had this thing where we had this argument where we go up or down. We win by greater percentage, we get better reputation. We lose by big, percentage. We lose some percentage. It hurts our reputation. That last part, they weren't really super excited about that. So they focused on that. But, we had, I think we had, a good bit of support in there. Justice Thomas was maybe a little bit more skeptical of sort of the broader theory, which, we just sort of brought them all so they could have a broad choice. The more, sort of left judges, Sotomayor, Ketanji Jackson, not particularly receptive of our arguments. Kagan seemed to be fairly receptive to it, to be honest with you, which honestly we thought going into it, because she sort of, from her question, she sort of thought standing was an obvious thing for candidates, but I don't think what she realizes is people like us, when we file lawsuits, we're spending 12 to 18 months just to get the court to decide it has jurisdiction before we can even begin the process of promoting election integrity and bringing election integrity cases. So, we're a bloodied heap by the time we get to the merits, if we get there.
We're speaking with Russell Nobile. He's a Judicial Watch senior attorney with the Judicial Watch's voting integrity division there, and he was at the Supreme Court yesterday on this case. One thing on this quickly, one of the things that's most frustrating, I think, for the American people is that it takes weeks to sometime count these ballots. Many people have suggested that is contrary to the constitutional requirement of having an election day and having things finalized in a timely manner. And it sort of degrades people's trust in the process. The arguments heard yesterday, will that resolve that? Will it actually compel states to change the way they do this so that we can get a timely result?
Yesterday's case will not. Yesterday's case is about that question, but we're not there yet. We have a second case that Judicial Watch brought, representing the Libertarian Party of Mississippi, and that the RNC brought, where we actually prevailed on the merits of the Fifth Circuit, and that is pending before before the Supreme Court to decide in about 2 weeks. So if the court takes that, we will have a national answer, hopefully, onto why states are allowed to continue to receive ballots days and weeks after Election Day.
Keep up the great work. Another example of how Judicial Watch really does do a terrific job in this town. Thank you so much, Russell. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Larry and Bethany. Thank you for having me.
Thanks.
7:15.
WMAL, making sense of the news. Live from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios. Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939. Your next $1,000 could be one text away. It's 5K a day on WMAL.
It's Larry O'Connor with Bethany Mandel. We've got an update on Jay Jones. He, of course, the candidate for Attorney General for the Democrats. Every single Democrat, elected official or otherwise, has maintained their support for this man, whose text messages now reveal his somewhat demented, violent fantasies about killing his political opponents. I don't want it ever to be forgotten, so I want to keep reiterating the reason he claimed that Todd Gilbert, the former Republican Speaker of the House in Richmond, deserved to have 2 bullets in the head is because Todd Gilbert said nice things about a Democrat at his funeral. Wild. That's what drove Jay Jones over the edge. Here's a new ad from Jason Miyares, the Attorney General. Listen.
Jay Jones wished violence on the children of a colleague.
How can Virginians trust a man who said something so horrific, so callously? Isn't that type of rhetoric disqualifying for someone who's seeking statewide office here in Virginia?
I wish that I hadn't done it. I wish I hadn't said it.
It is disgusting and unbecoming of a public official.
Jones is facing calls now to step down from the race. Some say he's not fit to serve as Attorney General.
It's a nice, subtle, and informative ad. I would have gone.
Some people think that wishing death upon the children of your political enemies might be beyond the pale.
Okay, some crazy people out there.
I am just so glad that we're still talking about this. When I've been watching the news, it's been a hot minute since I've been on, actually. And I will place my complaints with the WMAL overlords.
Hey, you're the one who has all those wacky holidays over there.
So wacky. We're living in a hut right now. It's ridiculous.
You Jewish people.
I know. It's really ridiculous. So what was I saying? I was so distracted.
Oh, you're glad that we're still talking about it because they want this to cycle out for sure.
I am so excited that we're still talking about this. It is beyond absurd. It is the peak of absurdity that this is not disqualifying. Seeing Virginia Democrats stand up and be like, you know what? I stand with that message. I stand with this man. Like, you are telling us who you are, and we should all listen.
That's
Pull
right.
up a chair.
Glenn Youngkin still remains quite popular, the current governor. He continues his daily messaging on this. Here he was calling for Jay Jones to step down.
These demented texts that called for 2 bullets in Todd Gilbert, our former speaker's head, and wished his children would die, a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old. And then most recently, it's been suggested that he called for police officers to die. This is beyond crazy, honestly. And therefore, this guy is not only disqualified from running, but I actually think there may be real calls for a legal investigation. And what that means to me is he's got to drop out. He has got to drop out of this race in disgrace. And his running mate, Abigail Spanberger, should show some courage and step up and tell him to do so.
Yeah, and he's right, of course, but it's too late. Yeah. So here's what I want everyone to recognize. If suddenly, sometime over the next day or two, you hear Abigail Spanberger or other Democrats, Tim Kaine, Mark Warner, say, yeah, Jay Jones has got to go, understand that nothing has changed in this story from last Friday when it broke. The only reason why any Democrat would step up right now and say Jay Jones should step down or quit the race is for political expediency. They're doing it because they wet their finger, they saw which way the wind was blowing, and they decided, oh, yeah, standing by Jay Jones isn't a good idea. It's not based on principles. It's not based on values. It's not based on ethics or morality. It's just based on their own political survival. Frankly, if Abigail Spanberger actually did the right thing and called for him to step down now, it would be worse. It would say more about how craven she is as a politician rather than as an actual moral human being.
Yeah, no, there is this is their bed and they should lie in it, and I wish them all the best of luck because from the perspective of Republicans, it couldn't possibly get better. This is so psychotic and so beyond the pale. I mean, especially after they all paid lip service to we decree political violence after Charlie Kirk, and that lasted all of 18 hours before they started saying, well, actually.
Yeah, he sort of had it coming. Yeah, no.
And so put your money where your mouth is, and let's have a real conversation about your commitment to ending political violence. And by the way, political violence, it sort of discriminates. There's a lot more Republicans that are killed than Democrats, but it doesn't always.
Yeah. By the way, here's the most important development in this story that you've all been waiting for. The last poll before this story broke showed Jay Jones leading Jason Miyares by 4 points, just close to within the margin of error. The latest poll now is out. It's the first poll post the text message story, and it's a complete reversal. In fact, Jason Miyares has now jumped 6 points from where he was to hold a 2-point lead over Jay Jones, 45.8 to 43.7. That's significant, to say the least. And if that trend continues and the rest of the ticket moves in that direction, it could be a bloodbath in these final weeks. It's 7:23. Coming up, Tennessee Senator Marsha Blackburn will join us. We'll get the latest on the government shutdown. We'll get her reaction to the peace deal in the Middle East. And we'll get her reaction to the revelation that the FBI under Joe Biden spied on her telephone activity. All that coming up. Keep it here. It's O'Connor and Company.
WMAL-FM, Woodbridge, Washington, a Cumulus media station. Making sense of the news. News Talk 105.9. WMAL. News now. Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
It is 7:37 on a pretty busy and, well, historic day here in your nation's capital and around the world. It's O'Connor and Company. Thanks for tuning in as we track the latest developments in the Middle East and a peace deal in hand now, signed and waiting for approval from the Netanyahu Security Council. Joining us at 8:05 will be Ron Halber of the Jewish Community Relations Council, and then at 8:35, Tomas Dietrich, Artistic Director at the Kennedy Center, talk about the Stuttgart Ballet coming into town. It's Larry O'Connor with Bethany Mandel. And for those of you who don't know, Bethany has been actively engaged in working with the families of the hostages there since October 8th for 2 years now. So I'm really pleased that you're here with us today as the story broke last night.
I'm so happy. I was thinking to myself, what am I going to do with all of my time now?
Yeah, really. You've got free time. You'll have another baby. Joining us now is a great friend of the state of Israel and someone who also must be thrilled with these developments, Senator Marsha Blackburn of Tennessee. We've got a lot to talk to you about, Senator, but I'm sure you'd love to chime in on this great development and quite a victory, not just for peace, but, yeah, for the Trump administration and his diplomatic efforts.
You're so right about that. And listening to some of the reports coming from Israel today and hearing that people they were awakened and dancing in the streets and just joyous. The fact that the hostages will be out at some point over the weekend or Monday, what a promising development there. And the president deserves the credit for this. He and Secretary of State Rubio and the negotiators that have been working on this deal have done a masterful job. Ambassador Huckabee deserves some credit on this, and for our nation and for the entire world. What a significant day, and the intentionality of bringing this war to an end and releasing these hostages was center to all these efforts.
And also your efforts. I've been in communication with many of your staffers. The beautiful thing, and I'm going to veer a little bit from this message in a few moments, but there was a lot of bipartisan support for these hostage families on the Hill. I met with so many Republicans and Democrats, and so much kindness and generosity was shown by your office and by other Republican offices, but also Democratic offices to these families who, were just so desperate for anyone to listen, and they found so many warm ears on Capitol Hill. And I just want to give you, the Jews say that Hakara Satov, that recognition that you were so generous with your time. And it's an emotional thing to sit with these families, and I know it was deeply appreciated by them.
Well, you're right. It is emotional to sit with them and to hear those stories, to hold their hands, to pray with them, and to just let them know that they're being heard and that efforts are being made.
Yes.
Senator Blackburn, it was revealed last week that your office was included in the multiple Republican senators whose phone activities were tracked by the FBI at behest of the special prosecutor Jack Smith and the Justice Department. And I'd love for you to react to that, especially for those who want to know, first of all, if this sort of activity is legal and what the repercussions should be.
Yes, indeed. And actually, it was our personal cell phones, not an office line, that was being tracked. And this came about after President Trump was indicted in August of 23. And then a few weeks later in September, there was a subpoena. So somebody signed off for the subpoena. We do not know what the predicate was or what they felt like the cause was. That has not been given to us yet. But there was a subpoena to the wireless companies, and without challenging the subpoena, the wireless companies turned over our records. The records were every call we either made or received, the individual that either made or received the call from us, the duration of the call, and the physical location, the tracking data on where we were physically located when we received that call.
Wow, that's pretty extensive.
Yes, it is extensive, and it is not legal. It is clearly illegal. It is a violation of civil rights and also of our privacy rights. I'm working on a bill to a letter of complaint to the D.C. bar against Jack Smith. This was all done as part of his Arctic frost. And as I said, they've given no information. We do know that Kash Patel fired everyone involved in the CR-15 unit that was working with Jack Smith on Arctic frost. So they've been removed from the FBI. We do know that DOJ is going to get the grand jury information, and they will be able to provide that to the 8 of us so that we can have a more fulsome picture of what they were doing and what they were up to and why they tracked us and why they pulled all of this communication register on us. And no, it's illegal. You can't do this.
It's illegal.
Can't fly.
These days, I assumed that was illegal and a violation of the Constitution or the separation of powers. But these days, Congress or Senator, I mean, let's face it. Go ahead, Bethany.
Yeah, no, I mean, you would think so, right? I mean, it begs the question, if they can do this to you, they can do this to any of us. That's the scary part here. So is there going to be any sort of, as you're looking at this, protecting the everyday man and woman, and not just members of Congress from this overreach?
Yes, and I know that as Dan Bongino met with us on Monday, Dan and the agent who is leading the team investigating what happened with Arctic frost, after they found this, they briefed us and they went back into the FBI manual to see how it was that anybody thought they could do this, because it is clearly and blatantly illegal. Mm-hmm. And they made a revision in that manual. And Bethany, the thing is, the number one question I've gotten from Tennesseans and from people around the country is, if they're doing this to you all, then who else are they spying on? Yeah. And my family, think about this, my children, my grandchildren, my husband, everybody who had contact with me, the FBI got that, their phone number, their name, the duration of the call, and where I was when I placed that call to them.
What a violation.
Yeah, wow. Something tells me if the Pam Bondi's Justice Department did that to some of your Democrat colleagues, they might have a thing or two to say about it. Have any of them? I saw Chris Coons sort of put a milquetoast statement out about it, but have you heard from any other Democrat senators who said, oh, yeah, this has more to do, less to do with party politics as it has to do with our institution?
the Democrats have been amazingly silent. And when we did our Judiciary Committee hearing with A.G. Bondi this week, they were over there railing about, oh, you're weaponizing the DOJ, and we were just laughing at them on our side. It was so insulting because, as we said, we have just found out that it was politicized, it was weaponized, activity was illegal, that this went on and on and on. And you want to say something about a weaponized, politicized DOJ? Yeah. They're the ones over there who are bringing transparency and accountability. And they're so backward.
Yeah, it really is. It is upside down world through the looking glass. Senator Marsha Blackburn, thank you for joining us. Always great to talk with you, but we got to leave it there. Right. Thank you. It's 7:45.
WMAL's Vince Colonnese, weekdays at noon on 105.9 WMAL, making sense of the news.
All right, tonight's the big one. It's the fight. It's the main event. It's the showdown. It's the only debate between Winsome Sears and Abigail Spanberger, and it's set for tonight. Abigail Spanberger, of course, backed out of a CNN debate. She wanted to downplay this as much as possible. It'll be on local Norfolk, Virginia news. I don't know if it's going to be simulcast up here. Oh, yes, it will. It will be on WJLA ABC 7. It's a Sinclair Group, which is a separate company, but they will be participating in getting this. So it'll be broadcast in Norfolk, Richmond, and here on WJLA. And we'll see. I mean, the latest poll from Trafalgar shows Spanberger up by 5, but still not clearing 50 points. And it's a big night for Winsome Sears if she wants to seal this deal and really make her case, Bethany.
So the good news is I think a lot of people discount the power of these sort of local debates because people are like, oh, who's going to watch the whole thing? And very few people watch the whole thing, but you know who does? Is people who take clips. And I think it's going to be very, very interesting with this AG situation. And I hope that there's some real serious questions asked here. And also Abigail Spanberger has been running from the main issue in Northern Virginia, the trans stuff. Yes.
That's right. Yeah, she will not answer it, and tonight will be her only chance to actually give a definitive answer. I just need to correct the record. I apologize. I am very, very sorry. I was reading in the article about a debate that had been scheduled in August that would have been simulcast in all 3 of those cities, and that negotiation ended up not going through. So this debate will only be there will be no simulcast. Nexstar, the owner of the syndicated station WAVY 10 in Norfolk, they denied the request for WJLA to run this. So all we will not see the live debate unless we try to find the streaming signal from the Norfolk station. Instead, we will just get clips. And I think that's exactly how Abigail Spanberger wants it.
Yep. I mean, she runs from these questions about the transgender bathrooms, and or transgender individuals in women's bathrooms, I should say, men in women's bathrooms. Yeah. And she was very hard to nail down on this debate too. She was really trying to run from it because her entire strategy has been to run out the clock.
Yes. Winsome Sears had agreed to a debate on CNN that would have been nationwide, by the way. And Abigail Spanberger declined that. Don't forget, when she ran for Congress last time around against Yesli Vega, there was supposed to be a debate, and I was going to be one of the moderators along with a radio host from NPR, so there could be, a moderator from both sides. And it was the Spanberger campaign back then in Virginia 7 who declined because of they cited me as the reason why they didn't want to debate Yesli Vega. Oh, yeah.
Oh my God.
She hates debating. She hates debating because she's never asked tough questions. She's like Katie Porter with a better wardrobe.
Oh my God, I love it.
Tonight's the night, and tomorrow we'll have plenty of clips from that debate. It's 7:55.